Planning matters. As a trustee, it is your legal and moral responsibility to enable, create, and monitor your board's strategic plan. Articulation of a preferred future for your board should be followed by a planning process that includes communities and stakeholders to whom the board is accountable. You know this. All boards have a strategic plan, and it is the law. If you are committed to continuous improvement, your current plan may require adjustments to better reflect your unique context. Does it consider student achievement and well-being, along with equity and inclusion and public confidence in education outcomes for all? And finally, is the success of each student at the core of your plan? As noted in the multi-year strategic planning document, students may arrive at your door ready to succeed, yet for others, their arrival at your door is success itself. How does your plan include both?
To describe strategic thinking, you almost have to talk about strategic planning first, because that is what most people are familiar with. We see strategic plans in organizations. We're all familiar with the planning process and the fact that boards and leadership teams go through long-term planning processes and annual planning processes. And that kind of strategic planning is really about programming the actions of the organization. Strategic thinking is quite different. Strategic thinking is, it happens more at the board level and the executive level. And it is really the process of having discussions about what's happening in our environment and the creative process of synthesis of all of that into some big ideas that the senior team and the board would like to pursue to respond to needs in the environment and issues and opportunities for the organization. So the strategic thinking and the strategic planning are really quite different. The planning piece is analytical. It's data-driven. It is, it's more about the what we're going to do and the how we're going to do it. Strategic thinking is much more creative. It requires a synthesis mindset. It requires boards and senior teams to be intimately connected to what's going on in the organization at a high level and to see patterns of what works and what doesn't work, to understand why things work or don't work, and equally to get intimately connected with the environment. It's hard for strategic planning to exist without good strategic thinking behind it. You have to start with some sense of where you're going and why before you can plan anything to happen in the organization. A strategic plan requires a big idea in order to have something to plan for. That said, the process that the executive team and the board go through as they're doing strategic thinking does need to be planned for, in the sense that you have to create the space for strategic thinking to occur. You have to provide the right inputs to the board and the senior team to be able to understand the organization, the environment, the big trends and forces of change that are impacting the organization. So you do have to plan the space and create the right kind of space for that conversation to take place, and provide the right information, data, and perspective for the board to be able to do that kind of strategic thinking. So there is an element of discipline to strategic thinking. However, on the strategic planning side, I don't believe you can do a strategic plan without having done the strategic thinking. And it is for the board and the executive team to bring forward a clear vision, to work with people to develop a common set of values that we can all ascribe to. And it is for that team to help others in the organization to understand the environment in the same way that they do, so that they can also come to the same conclusions about the big idea and come to the same conclusions about the vision, and sort of take that further as management into the realm of what are we going to do to move toward that vision. A partner in strategic thinking can first help by creating clarity around the distinction between strategic thinking and strategic planning. A partner can help to create some discipline around both of those things. Boards should be thinking about about strategic thinking on a regular basis. A good partner can help design strategic thinking into the board's annual work plans so that there is time carved out for those discussions, and help the boards to understand what it is they need to be looking at and what questions they need to be asking at key points throughout the year as the strategy is developed and executed, in order to make sure that the organization continues to go in the right direction. Boards and senior teams will know that good strategic thinking is happening by the energy of the conversation when it's taking place, and the momentum that starts to generate around ideas. They will see a room where everyone has a shared understanding of what's happening in the environment and the organization that they need to pay attention to. And they will know that strategic thinking is happening when there's some creativity to the discussion, when connections are being made across the table. I had an experience recently with our own senior team where a really powerful strategic thinking conversation took place. And it was really one where everyone in the room realized that the big challenges facing healthcare and hospitals in particular are not ours alone to solve. Things like addressing wait times and the patient experience that takes place when patients have an experience in a hospital and then a community setting and back at home. We don't control all of the pieces of the patient experience. And the conversation started to go in the direction of what would it be to have partnership as a strategy, where we actually had relationships and good partnerships with community care providers, with other hospitals who are part of our care continuum. And what does being a good partner really look like? And a strategic direction started to emerge out of that was actually quite different than directions we've been pursuing previously. And so that's a great example of where the board and the senior team recognized patterns in the environment, were really creative in coming up with a strategic direction that is maybe a bit unconventional from the perspective that the organization doesn't control all of the elements of it. And then it will be for that senior team to sort of engage management to come to a similar perspective. Strategic thinking is something that everyone in the organization should really engage in. And I believe that even if people don't think they're engaging in strategic thinking, We all do it in different ways, shapes, and forms. It's just at different levels of the organization. From the perspective of the creation of an organization's strategic plan, the reason that the senior team and the trustees and boards need to partner in that strategic thinking piece at the level of the overarching strategic plan is that they have a very different vantage point than others in the organization. They sit at provincial tables. They are part of system level conversations in a way that is a little bit different. And so they have an opportunity to sort of do strategic thinking at the systems level and bring that into the organization that can then take it further and actually create strategies and plans for responding to what's taking place in the environment that's important to the organization. But strategic planning needs to happen at every level. It's just that the senior team and the trustees together need to really lead that process and bring the big picture vantage point into the organization. It is the job of the senior team to position the trustees to be able to engage meaningfully in strategic thinking conversations. It is our job as senior leaders in partnership with the trustees to make sure that we all have a common understanding of the environment, of the data that we're looking at, of all of those inputs into strategic thinking, because you actually can't do that level of thinking without that common understanding. Trustees come from many different backgrounds, but they all share a passion for students and for student success and for the education system. It's our job really to help them understand the forces of change in the environment and bring everyone to a common understanding of what's important to pay attention to in the environment so that we can have productive strategic thinking conversations where everyone is included. We have trustees and board members from a variety of diverse backgrounds on purpose because we want a variety of perspectives at the table. Strategic thinking that happens in a vacuum with one group of individuals that share the same perspective could actually be quite dangerous for an organization. We want diverse perspectives. And in bringing many different perspectives to the table, that is really where you get a richness of conversation and strategic thinking that enables you to create truly transformational big ideas that organizations can pursue, that consider all of the people that we are serving, and meet the needs of students everywhere. So we want diverse perspectives. What can happen when you bring lots of different perspectives to the table is people don't all agree on what data means, on what's happening in the environment, and that's okay too. You want to have healthy debate, and in fact, if the conversations are too easy, it might be a good idea to go back and check that we're really seeing all perspectives. Strategic thinking is a really important practice for everyone to engage in. However, at the level of trustees and senior teams, it is particularly vital that we engage in strategic thinking as a regular reflective practice throughout the year, and that we stay focused on the big picture, that we are advocates for those big ideas, the vision for the organization, and the big strategic directions that we're trying to pursue, and to not get so involved in the what we're going to do, to not get so involved in the how we're going to do it, because we have really great people in the system who know what to do and how to do it. And so it is important to stay engaged in strategic thinking at that level and to always keep that conversation going at the board with the trustees and in the organizations, to keep people connected to the vision of the organization and that moral compass that binds us all together in a common mission.